Hello everyone and welcome to game 2 in a series between Grubby and Darkforce. I believe this was taken from the European King of the Hill. Darkforce spawning as the... actually this is blue Zerg, so let me go ahead and... well, it's purple up here, but it's really blue. Blue Zerg here on at the 12 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Grubby down over here as the green Protoss. Protoss versus Zerg once more, and this is on Terminus Ray, which does open up into a very rather large macro map. A lot of Protoss players do try to do a forge fast expansion over here on the low ground, and we'll see if that will be the case. Wow, as a probe now makes its way out, I'm sorry, if I get a little bit distracted, actually I won't even explain it. Anyways, probes now making their way out. We'll be able to look around the map rather quickly, and we'll see what Darkforce does to try to counter the fact that the Protoss will be able to establish 3 very quick bases. There are a set of destructible rocks here that lead into this lower ground expansion here. There is a normal Vespene geyser, not rich, in addition to 5 mineral patches, not 6, not 4. So yeah, every version of Terminus Ray is slightly different, but we'll see how this game really moves and pushes forward. Zerg players like the fact that there is an easy third base that isn't a full mineral patch, because it allows them to really macro up off of 3 bases and pretty quickly. And the destructible rocks does mean that it is rather wide open though, so there may be a bit of an issue there, as a probe now gonna walk up the ramp, sees the Overlord, but still needs to check what's happening on the inside. Darkforce going for a spawning pool first here on Terminus Ray. Meanwhile, we have not seen a Nexus or a Forge yet, so this may be an issue if Grubby is trying to go for a 17 Nexus. He in fact is Nexus before anything else. Greedy Protoss trying to expand faster than a Zerg. And we'll see if Grubby will be able to fend off what I believe to be a very what will be harassment in just a moment. There's that forge already there. Cannons will be placed along here, and then another gateway, but you also have to be very careful. Because of this set of destructible rocks here, units can come in along that backside. That one drone getting some damage onto that probe already. That probe just wants to return home, drop off those minerals, and continue to work, but that one drone will not let him. You can see that Grubby is currently supply locked at 18/18. Supply locked, supply blocked. Sounds so similar. Anyways, I've been using locked for over 2 years, so I'm just going to continue to use it. Photon cannon has been placed down here, and then perhaps a cybernetics core will finish off this wall in. Now the key question will be whether or not or how Darkforce responds to this. Darkforce going for a hatchery, and now already has up 1 queen. That does mean that he will be able to get even more drones more quickly, as having a drone or having a queen next to a hatchery actually produces more larvae than 1 naked hatchery. Back here, you can see that the photon cannon is up, the cybernetics core now in play, and I believe another pylon at some point needs to be warped in down here in order to gain sight on these destructible rocks. Otherwise, Zerg can knock on this back door and simply roll it over. Probes are being transferred over. Let's take a look at the harvester count. 24, 25 versus 19. And Grubby now with 2 sets of Nexuses in order to chrono boost will be able to get out a lot of probes rather quickly. And Grubby should be able to hold an economic lead for a little while longer, as Darkforce does not have his second hatchery up yet, so Darkforce still only mining off of 8 mineral patches as opposed to Grubby's 16, as now 1 Overlord in the air. It looks like a Stalker will come out, meet and greet, and destroy that Overlord in just a moment, as a second Photon Cannon now coming in. 1 Zergling just checking the front door there, and now Grubby getting the first bit of damage. You can see additional Overlord is being trained, so we will not be supply locked for very long. And now chrono boosting up a sentry. We are still supply locked by Grubby, 37/44. He needs to get up more probes. Now transferring even or double training all of his probes into that other base over there. Not quite sure why he doesn't rally 1 here or just transfer more initially, as the walking distance is rather long, but in the end, I'm sure it doesn't even matter. Darkforce will be able to place down another hatchery here. He will be running off of 3 bases, and that should allow him to catch up and surpass Grubby in the economic count. And this is turning out to be a very macro style of game. Grubby having this forge, but he is not researching any weapons upgrade at all. one of the things I'd like to see coming in from a Protoss player is getting those weapons upgrades early. Zealots being able to two-shot a Zergling, very important. And there you go, getting the weapons upgrade at the 7-minute mark, almost on the dot. Hatchery about to be completed, and I believe Darkforce has now evened up, or about evened up, the drone count and also will be able to mine off of these additional 5 mineral patches and get a little bit of a lead. Grubby now just pretty much putting money in the bank. Same thing with Darkforce, and Darkforce now also taking the tier 2. So once again, this is Sim StarCraft. Sit inside your base as long as you can. Build up the largest possible army, and then move out. We are getting a lot of sentries trained up, as those sentries, the longer they're in the game, the more energy you have, and the more energy a sentry has in the game, and the more deadly they are against a Zerg player. Now, Darkforce is not expanding anywhere else. He could have taken this time. He can see that the front door, but he doesn't really know what's going on inside. And wow, Grubby warping in 5 gateways at the same time right now. And he will be able to just power warp in all of those units, as he's still getting more and more gas. Sitting on now 400 gas, now continuing to warp in more sentries. Grubby may get somewhere in the realm of about 8 to 12 sentries based upon his build so far, as now more units making their way down. 58 drones now compared to 54. No real reason to try to take another base. And 75 food compared to 67, so more than 2/3 of both food is now just comprised up of units. You can now see, oh, why are those photon cannons destroying the forge before the forge is done? Because the forge will be completed in time. And also, no real reason to destroy this. Just go up the rocks here. The rocks, or destructible debris here, and then that way you can continue to chrono boost. I believe the photon cannons accidentally attacked the forge. It wasn't on purpose. He wasn't trying to clear it out, as Grubby now has level 1 weapons upgrade. Blink now being researched as well. He already has a Twilight Council. I would like to see a second forge as a hallucination now coming out from Grubby in order to gain sight and figure out what is happening. There are a couple Zerglings on the trying to peck apart those rocks. Roaches also making their way in, but Grubby has the larger army by far. Production-wise, I take that all back, as a round of roaches just quickly hatched and are now making their way out. Glio Reconstitution, Groove Spines, level 1 missile attacks, and this is going to be a very nice timing attack in just a moment. You can see that the Zerglings are now trying to take down the forge. They will be able to do so, and as Grubby doesn't realize that he actually needs his photon cannons right up against the edge in order to fight back against a roach. The roaches did have an increase in range from 3 to 4 a couple months back, and that's why if you're watching any older replays, that is what you're seeing now, as now a Phoenix is now in the air and force fields making their way out, but the force fields were not perfect. If he had actually corralled those units just a little bit better, he would have been actually able to split apart Darkforce's army and then dealt a really devastating blow. Rocks now down to 900 hit points. They cannot be repaired. Sentries and Stalkers still being added, as we are now finally taking up that all-important 4th base here on Terminus Ray. One of those bases which is very difficult to take, and it's being taken at the 12-minute mark. Really, we are still seeing a lot of production coming out. How many larvae does he have? He only has 2 larvae. He needs to get up another hatchery, Darkforce does. Otherwise, he's just going to start sitting on a lot of minerals and not enough larvae in order to train up units. Roaches are going to be able to quickly take down the set of rocks, and now as they get taken down, the roaches are going to be perhaps corralled into that position there. There's the force fields, and now more force fields there. Zealots now backing off, and the roaches may try to engage, and those roaches are just getting caught in a very, very difficult situation, unable to escape, as more roaches are now making their way in, and now in comes a push. No, Darkforce was able to clear the rocks, unable to get the push, and now no additional force fields. Stalkers do have Blink, though, and getting a nice round of attack in the back, as we are now sitting on 70 drones compared to 64 probes. Immortals are being added. Level 2 weapons upgrade. Roaches very smartly burrowing now in order to regenerate more hit points, and this is going to become a mass roach army. I do not see any Hydralisk just quite yet, but we know that the Groove Spines research has been completed, so a Hydralisk den is down. And as soon as he sees perhaps any Void Rays, he will try to get some Hydralisk with that level 1 weapons upgrade and already the Groove Spines. Protoss weapons upgrade about to be completed, and now Grubby may simply be able to just move out with a very strong army. And level 2 weapons upgrades, 60 damage per pop from these phase disruptors on an Immortal. There you go, up to 60. And that is going to be very, very beneficial, as well as the Overlord now tries to fly in. It looks like it will be able to get some scouting information and sight the Stalkers, however, quickly coming over to do a meet and greet and a destruction. Roaches, now a large number of roaches making their way out, and really Darkforce having roaches and Hydralisks, if he's able to get these units in the proper position, will help out tremendously. He needs to get some Ultralisks, otherwise he's not going to be able to deal with these force fields at all. You can see that the roaches are trying to battle it out. The roaches are now being forced to pull back, though. The Hydralisks are not engaging, and if they are not engaging, they are not dealing damage. And when half of your army is not dealing damage, they might as well not be alive. Hydralisks and roaches may be able to take down this Nexus over here. Both sides are continuing to push. Stalkers do deal a little bit less damage, and also those Immortals deal less damage. So both sides trying to continue to fight. Grubby being very, very careful about blinking with those Stalkers, and it looks like the Nexus will just get taken down. And as soon as this Nexus gets down, it will be much more difficult for Grubby to win in the long-term game, as now Zerglings are starting to swarm in, but they do not have any weapons upgrade. In comes a Psystorm, cleaning off many of those Zerglings, softening them up for the Stalkers. But Darkforce seems to just be blindly attack moving with a weaker army at this stage. And as those Hydralisks are now trying to turn around, get some damage back, and now those Stalkers with that cooldown on Blink being not yet done, the Hydralisks are now just need to get back on creep. Taking a look at the income, Darkforce definitely ahead now with 2100, and also a significantly more gas running off of this additional base here. Grubby needs to really figure out what his long-term goals and strategies are, as we now see Hive Tech coming underway. Perhaps we will see some Ultralisks. Ultralisks very, very helpful in games like this where your opponent is trying to rely on force fields. 2-1 upgrades on those roaches, and 2-2 or 2-1 upgrades obviously on those Hydralisks, as well as they share upgrades, as Darkforce now taking down another set. You can see Grubby has expanded here, over here at what I'll call the center 3 o'clock location, as the Zerglings are trying to finish off the Zealots. The Zealots could easily take down all of those Zerglings. They have the level 2 weapons upgrade, so even with that level 1 armor, they will get simply one-shotted. Army of Grubby still slightly behind at this point in the game, as the roaches may try to battle out. The roaches do move rather quickly on creep, as this hatchery about to be completed. So it looks like we will be running off of a bare bones 1 base, and then it looks like we are still going to 3 to 4 base play. Don't have the time to count, as Grubby now is sitting at 179 food compared to 198. And the roaches finishing off this pylon. So we are going to have a bit of a move out here. The Immortal now trying to battle it out. The Immortal's trying to run away, getting some damage, but unable to really destroy any of those roaches. Roaches may decide to burrow and then come back in later. A Spire now being added as well. So perhaps he wanted a greater Spire and didn't realize he didn't already have a Spire. And that is always bad news for Darkforce, as Darkforce now will need 200 seconds. But we are seeing a Nidus network, folks. I have not seen a Nidus network in ages, and I would absolutely, absolutely love to see one. We do have one Overlord here, so it is going to be very difficult for a Nidus Worm to even come down. Perhaps a Nidus network right here would be perfect, as it would not be spotted because of these vents, and then all of those units will be able to just instantly move all across the map with that very, very fast movement speed. Somehow. Anyway, Stalkers and Zealots are once again engaging. This one hatchery now falling, but both sides are continuing to battle it out. And where is that Nidus? Is the Nidus Worm coming up on the other side? No, I do not see a Nidus Worm coming up on the other side anywhere. So that is going to be a bit of a problem, as both sides are now going into a base race and a base chase here. So Hydralisks and Roaches now making their way out, dealing a lot of damage. Grubby with the upper side in that army right now, continuing to just deal so much damage. Roaches and Hydralisks continuing to push in and able to destroy so many of these gateways. Roaches now finishing off more of those nexuses as well. The main part of this army, Grubby, now trying to finish off the hatchery, as the Zealots are going through, both sides taking horrible, horrible losses, and we are now going into a greater Spire. Not quite sure why we're seeing even higher tech any further, as the Roaches and Hydralisks continuing to battle it out. There's another Nexus over here, so Grubby is playing the base race chase, but Darkforce doing a better job placing down 3 hatcheries. Hydralisks and Roaches, some of them are not even battling. There are probes hiding in the back over here. It looks like Grubby getting a lot of photon cannons here and another forge in order to build some natural base defense. The Immortals continuing to battle it out. The Hydralisk den and all the main tech is now being destroyed as we are finally rebuilding a Roach War, and that Roach War needs to be placed down. No, it cannot be placed down over here as an army is their army. We can see the Zerg army slightly smaller, so when the engagement does finally happen, another Nexus has been taken down, and now probes being transferred off to the 2 o'clock expansion location. I do not believe Darkforce knows about it. No, he does not. All sides getting attacked. Yeah, all sides just getting attacked. And in multiple locations, the Stalkers are trying to regroup once more. Roaches continuing to push, and there's a Psi Storm preventing those Roaches from really trying to engage. No more Creep Tumors, as an Infestor may be able to get in a lot of damage just with one fungal growth. The Roaches and the Hydralisks are now finally backing off here. Hydralisks are here shutting down all of the production buildings. And this is going to be a bit of a problem now as these Hydralisks taking down a lot of these gateways. 120 versus 168. The army so large now finally moving out as both sides were dealing devastating blows towards each other. Another pylon getting taken down now. The Hydralisks need to be really careful on what they're attacking, going after lower hit point buildings, making sure that they are actually dealing damage. But the main battle happening over here as another Psi Storm hits its target and weakens up this bio ball, because it is biological even though it's not Terran. Sonic Storm now barely missing any of those units and now trying to do a bit of a split there, but a Sonic Storm ripping through all of those Roaches. The Roaches do have Burrow, so that will definitely help. And both sides are now trying to engage and battle it out. There are a lot of mortals. Psi Storm not hitting there at all, as the Hydralisks are now just continuing to move around, perhaps get even more damage. More of a spawning pool has been placed down as well. No additional units are able to be trained, and this one hatchery is now down. Psi Storm hitting Darkforce. Darkforce in massive retreat once more as the Stalkers are continuing to battle it out over here. You can see the probes are now making their way over to the, the 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock starting location as the Zealots of Grubby are now finishing hatchery after hatchery. Hydralisks are now trying to get in position, more mining in different locations. Darkforce does have a couple of buildings. One of the things that you can do as a Zerg player, if you have spine crawlers or spore crawlers, uproot them so they do not start to bleed. Now Hydralisks and Roaches are now backing off once more. Stalkers able to blink in from the back, get in more damage. Roaches are trying to come back in, but in comes a Psi Storm, and that was just so much damage, softening it up, and then the Stalkers blinking in straight from behind to round it off, and I believe Grubby will be able to take this game in just a matter of moments. All of those Hydralisks moving way too slowly, especially against those Stalkers. Army 1,500, and there's the GG. So Grubby taking a commanding 2-0 lead here against Darkforce on Terminus Ray. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.